Vice President Joe Biden just released that announcement.
Joe Biden is now a 2020 presidential candidate.
Biden will enter this race as the frontrunner.
I know Joe. We know Joe. But most importantly, Joe knows us.
Candidates coalescing around Joe Biden.
His campaign made history.
Joe Biden has selected Kamala Harris as his running mate.
This is your campaign.
Now's the time to fight for what we believe.
The 2020 presidential election is less than 2 months away.
The presidential race is tight.
This election is in no way predetermined, and it's going to be close.
Yeah.
We have got to vote like our lives depend on it.
Welcome to tonight's pre-debate watch party. Tonight, for the final time, Vice President Joe Biden will take the stage with Donald Trump for tonight's debate. My name is BJ McAllister, and I'm the Deputy State Director for the Biden campaign here in Maine, and I'm so excited to be with you all tonight. We expect tonight that Vice President Biden will win the debate, and he will definitely be the only one on the stage willing to engage on policy questions and explain how he'd protect Americans suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic and our economic crisis. Meanwhile, we expect to see more of the same from Donald Trump. We expect him to spread misinformation and baseless attacks. Time and time again, he showed us that in his mind, his lies merit more discussion than the hundreds of thousands of Americans who have lost their lives to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tonight, we will see many stark contrasts, perhaps the biggest one being on healthcare. We'll hear from Donald Trump, who wants to undermine the Affordable Care Act and take healthcare away from thousands of Mainers, and Joe Biden, who will strengthen and expand the Affordable Care Act. We'll hear from a number of great guests tonight. There'll be musical performances, updates from the field, and insights from top strategists. Speaking of top strategists, it's my honor to introduce our first guest, who famously played my personal favorite political strategist of all time, Joshua Lyman on The West Wing. He's an Emmy Award-winning actor who starred in Get Out, Billy Madison, The Post. Bradley Whitford, it's my honor to welcome you to Maine.
Thank you, BJ. It's a thrill to be here. It's an absolute thrill. And I just want to say to all you Mainers, on behalf of the acting president of the United States, I thank you for doing, this ain't no stinking TV show. This is the real world. The stakes have never been higher, and you people are embodying what I deeply believe in my non-fictional life, which is the fact that we don't get a democracy. We got to make it every day, and we don't just need to win. We need to repudiate this civic dysentery that we've been living through. I am so excited because I think everybody in the Democratic Party, in a way I have not felt in a very long time, understands that we have the right candidate. We have someone who is uniquely qualified for this particular moment, not only because of the tremendous sort of political, strategic advantage that he brings. We are competing in states we never competed in before. But I think on a deeper level, this country is in a lot of pain, and there's a lot of fear. And Joe Biden, who has experienced unspeakable, multiple personal tragedies, clearly has the empathy. To quote a metaphor from The West Wing, he's been down in the hole, and he knows his way out. This is a disorienting time. I feel like this experience as a citizen with Trump is kind of like an Al-Anon situation. Like, daddy's nuts. Like, daddy's really nuts. And Lindsey Graham is mommy going, get in the van, kids. Everything's fine. And we're like, no, he's killing us. It's disorienting. And to extend the Al-Anon metaphor, that means we can't control him. We can't control his enablers, but what we can control is our side of the street. And our side of the street right now is getting every single vote out. So I thank you for what you're doing. You know, all gas, no brakes, maximum force through the finish line. And I am so hopeful. I really am hopeful about where we're going to end up when we put an end to this nightmare. So I really want to thank you.
Well, Bradley, thanks for being here. And, you know, to borrow from your character, if we want to drink from the keg of glory, we have to make sure that we do everything we can to get out the vote. And we've got folks across the state making phone calls tonight, every night. They're knocking on doors. They're talking to voters every day. And I think a lot of them would love to hear from you some words of encouragement before you leave. What do you have to say to folks when they're asking if they can do one more hour or one more shift? What's that push other than your minivan?
Listen, I you know, unfortunately, and I feel this myself. None of us are doing enough. None of us. Everything is on the line here. Access to health care in the middle of a pandemic and afterwards. The planet is at stake. You know, the unspectacular, unfulfilled promise of this country is at stake. Science is at stake. Decency is at stake. I mean, you know, the way Joe says it, you know, it is absolutely a fight for the soul of our nation. I can tell you, I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm doing phone banks there all day. I'm doing Zooms all day. We need to do as much as we can. So I really appreciate what everyone's doing out there, and I know it's going to pay off. But do not let up.
Great. Thank you, Bradley. We're honored to have you in Maine. Appreciate all you're doing, and keep up the great work in Wisconsin. And we're so glad you could join us tonight. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you all again.
As Bradley mentioned, we can't let our foot off the gas. Right now, we need people to sign up for that extra shift, to go that extra mile, because we are in the battle of the soul of this nation. And we do not want to wake up the day after Election Day wishing we had done more. Sign up to volunteer right now. Go to my.mainedems.org to sign up for a volunteer shift. Next, I want to bring on our next guest. But before I do so, I just want to underscore some of the things that we can expect to see in this debate. Look, during this debate, Joe Biden is going to speak directly to the American people about his plan to contain COVID-19 and to build our country back better. He's going to talk about his plan to ensure that working families and small businesses have a fair shot and make sure that super wealthy corporations pay their fair share. Our expectation is that President Trump is going to talk about everything but the job he's done as president over the past 4 years. He's going to continue to play bully and deflect and avoid addressing a meaningful way to tackle the top issues facing Maine voters, whether that's COVID-19 or protections for pre-existing conditions or our struggling economy. We expect that Trump will attack Biden and his family, amplifying Russian misinformation. But those attacks are backfiring on Donald Trump. Despite leveling them in the first debate, voters resoundingly thought Biden won the debate because voters are sick and tired of Donald Trump's lies. They've heard the same debunked attacks for over a year. Voters across this country live in a world defined by Donald Trump's failures. nothing that happens at this debate stage will change the fact that more than 8 million Americans have been infected by COVID-19. 12 million are unemployed. 1 in 5 small businesses have closed their doors. On November 3rd, we have a chance to change the chapter. We have a chance to restore the soul of America. And for me, when I'm on these journeys and I'm fighting for the soul of America, I think about what brings my soul joy, which is music. And it's my honor to introduce Jeff Beebe. Jeff is a musician and an activist living in Falmouth, Maine. He's performed with and opened for some of my favorite bands, Spoon, Big Thief, Deer Tick, and he's even opened for Senator Bernie Sanders and many others. He's also the interim executive director and programming director of One Longfellow Square, a nonprofit performing arts center in downtown Portland. Jeff, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you. Before you play your song, we'd love to hear why you're supporting Joe Biden and Senator Harris. And of course, we'd love to hear a little bit about the song you're going to perform too.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Last night I performed on Bernie Sanders' Maine virtual town hall. So it feels invigorating to be involved in this and doing everything I can. It's really hitting me right now that we're all kind of trapped in our houses due to this virus and doing everything we can to connect with each other and get out the vote. And it's a really dire situation, just the whole gravity of it. I mean, it's just hitting me right now, just watching this whole thing. And I mean, in terms of why I'm supporting Joe Biden, you can kind of take your pick, right? It's across the board. There's so many things that personally, I can't wait to have a government that believes in science again. I mean, what a concept. And I worked for a music venue, so I would love to have a president, vice president, and a Senate that believes in funding the arts and believes in the value that arts bring to our culture. So there's so many reasons why I'm going to vote. Actually, I already did vote for Joe Biden because we have early voting here. And I made a plan and I stuck to it and I did it. And it felt great to vote. I'll tell you a real quick story. I got to meet Joe Biden one time. It was in 2009 when he was the vice president. I was in college at Emerson and I was working at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum. And while I happened to be working there, Senator Ted Kennedy passed away. And Joe Biden gave kind of the keynote speech at the end of the night celebrating Senator Kennedy. And I got to be there and see it all. And it was very, very moving. And after his speech, when you're working there, you're supposed to do your job. And I'm a young kid in college. And I just kind of, in the spur of the moment, go straight to Vice President Biden after his speech and tell him how just moved I was by his speech and how it's refreshing to see a politician with that kind of empathy. And we're in a room with, John McCain right after he ran for president. There's John Kerry. There's so many really important people, but there's this guy bugging him, and he looked me right in the eye, and he talked to me for, it had to be about 5 minutes, and he really gave me the time of day, and it was really amazing. And I just felt the connection as a human being, and I know what he's gone through as a person in his life, and it would just be amazing to have a president with true empathy again. So that one of many reasons why I'm voting and supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris this year. So I'm going to play one of my favorite songs. It's a song by the Flaming Lips called Race for the Prize. It feels like a song for the times. Here it goes. Two scientists are racing
for the good of all mankind, both of them side by side. So determined, locked in heated battle, for the good is the prize, but it's so dangerous. They're determined, theirs is to win. If it kills them, they're just humans with wives and children. Upward to the vanguard, where the pressure is too high. Under the microscope, hope against hope, forging for the future, but to sacrifice their lives, both of them side by side. So determined, theirs is to if it kills them, they're just human, wives and children. Theirs is to win. If it kills them, they're just human too. Wives and children.
Jeff, that was awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Loved it. Great job. Thanks so much for doing that.
Thanks for having me. Make a plan to vote, and then talk to your friends and family. Make sure they have a plan too, and then we got this.
That's right. Jeff's got it spot on. Make a plan to vote. If you're wondering how to make your plan to vote, we've got an easy way to help you with that. Go to votemaine.com. It has an easy go-to resource that can answer all of your questions about voting. Now we have in-person absentee voting happening. You can go to your town office. Many town offices have safe, secure drop boxes posted outside. And of course, election day is November 3rd. So there are plenty of ways to vote. But go to votemaine.com, make your plan to vote. It's important to have your voice heard, as you've heard so far tonight. So many thanks, Jeff. It's been an honor to work with him on this campaign. Next, I want to bring on Tim Carroll. Tim Carroll is the Deputy Coalition's Communications Director for the Biden campaign. He works with nearly 20 coalitions to communicate the campaign's outreach and engagement efforts. He previously worked as a press secretary for the 2020 Democratic National Convention, which I know we all loved. We had some great watch parties for that. And he worked on Elizabeth Warren's presidential campaign and for the city of Detroit. Tim, great to have you here. Really excited to have you in Maine, albeit virtually. I'd love to hear from you about the importance of this election for key coalitions, why we need to vote, and most importantly, how things are going on the trail.
Sure. And thank you for that introduction. An honor to be here with everyone tonight. As you mentioned, my name is Tim Carroll. I'm the Deputy Coalition's Communications Director for the Biden campaign. I work with all of our amazing coalitions, almost 20 of them, plus all of our incredible affinity groups. There are, really many to name in the time we have tonight. And I work with them to amplify the work that we're all doing nationally and in the states and on the ground to unify and build a coalition behind Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to elect them this November. Joe and Kamala are building one of the broadest, most diverse coalitions we've ever seen in any presidential campaign. And we're incredibly proud of this work, to bring more people into this campaign, to bring the most people possible in. We're so proud of the different coalitions that we've seen pop up, not just officially, but on a grassroots level. The support has just been overwhelming, and that's including in Maine, where we've seen tons of coalitions standing up and uniting behind Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We all know what the reality is right now. We know Americans are living in a world that is defined by Trump's failures to protect the nation. You kind of tick through a lot of these pieces earlier. 8 million Americans have been infected by COVID. 12 million are unemployed. 1 in 5 small businesses have closed their doors. It's tough. It's tough for millions and millions of people. It could not be more clear that our lives and our livelihoods are on the ballot this November. And so is the character of the country. This is why we need to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are the polar opposite of Donald Trump. Joe Biden has a plan to end this pandemic. As soon as there's a safe and effective vaccine, he'll make sure it's available to everyone everywhere. Instead of trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act in the middle of a pandemic, which would be detrimental to millions and millions, and instead of allowing insurance companies to discriminate against the more than 100 million Americans with pre-existing conditions, Joe Biden will build in the Affordable Care Act. And he's going to bring healthcare to more Americans than ever before. That couldn't be more important. And instead of fighting for tax breaks for the wealthy and the well-connected, Joe Biden will bring our economy back from the brink, from the bottom up, just like he did when President Obama took him to rescue our economy from the last recession we faced. Now is the time to get engaged. I think everybody's kind of touched on this. We've got 12 days. It's go time. Everyone can always do more. It's so important to get involved. You have to make sure you have a plan to vote. You have to make sure your friends and family come along too. You guys have an excellent website set up here. And we have, of course, iwillvote.com nationally as well and in other states, so that folks can make a plan to vote if you haven't already. And if you have voted already, you just need to get involved, join the movement, start making calls, sign up, and bring your friends and family. Because when we get everybody out there to vote, when we all vote, we win. So that's the goal right now. That's where we are at. We are feeling good, but we have to do more. We have to continue to push. This is not over. We still have work to do, and we just need to get out there and get it done so that we elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
That's right, Tim. And you're right. The election is right around the corner. In Maine, in New England, we call this Tom Brady Day, 12 days to go. I think a lot of us are looking to the debate, and we're excited. This is the last time the two of them will face off on the debate stage. And so, how are you feeling about the debate tonight?
I think we're all feeling good. I think we are ready to go. I think, this event is just one example of all of the work that we're doing to organize around a moment like this. We all saw how the last debate went. there was one leader on stage and one liar. There was one president on stage last time, and it wasn't the guy who flew in on Air Force One. So, like you said, Joe Biden tonight is going to speak to the American people. That's his goal. He's not going to worry about what Trump is going to do. He's not going to, we know what Trump is going to do. We expect him to push the, attacks and the lies and all of this. Joe Biden's not going to worry about that. He's going to talk to the American people about containing COVID and listening to the science and the experts. He's going to talk about his plan to build the country back better. And he's going to outline how he's going to fight for us and for working families in Maine and across the country. And of course, he's going to talk about unity. And he's going to talk about what it means to restore the soul of the nation. And that really starts with electing Joe Biden. And like I said, we know how Trump's going to act. We know he can't debate his way out of his record. We know that he can't run or hide from the failures of his administration on so many levels. Americans see through Trump's lies and distortions. They're just sick and tired of them. People are done with it. They want leaders who will give it to them straight and have a plan to address the crises we face. The American people know that Joe Biden understands the issues that are facing their families, and they know that he will fight for them. So that's what we're going to hear from Joe Biden tonight. And I think everybody feels pretty good about that.
Agreed. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Tim. So, I'm sure you experience this, and I hear it from supporters all the time. What is the key thing we need to focus on? We've got to keep our eye on the prize as we go towards November 3rd. In your opinion, what is that key component on our pathway to victory on November 3rd?
So obviously it's everybody getting involved and making sure you have a plan to vote and making sure all of your friends and family are voting and also getting involved at a very engaged level. But the one thing that I think is really important and is going to be a key pathway is our coalition building. And this is something that we have been working on from the beginning, building these robust coalitions, bringing as many people into the fold as we possibly can. And this work is paying off. This work is, being leveraged now. And we're leaving no vote behind, no stone unturned. And we can do that because of the incredible coalitions that we've built. Like I said earlier, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have built one of the broadest, one of the most diverse, one of the most inclusive coalitions we've ever seen. And that is really, really, really paying off. Because we know, like I said earlier, when we all vote, we win. We've been able to build this broad and diverse coalition because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have the character and the experience to make us a better country. And Joe and Kamala are going to be in the fight, not for themselves, but for every single one of those coalitions, every single one of us. We know that working families deserve a president who will fight for them by implementing the plan we've needed for the last 8 months to get the virus under control, to provide the economic relief families struggling to make ends meet need, and to protect healthcare. So week after week, Joe Biden demonstrates that leadership and that he will be that president that we all need. And we have these wonderful coalitions that are backing that. And we have all of our incredible volunteers across the country and here in Maine who are backing that up, backing up Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and really pushing us towards the finish line. And I'll just say it again, when we all vote, we win. So vote, vote, vote.
That's right. And Tim, thanks for all you're doing. And as Tim highlighted, we're doing so much in Maine with our coalition's work, whether it's for Biden, who launched earlier this fall with more than 400 people joining the kickoff event, or if it's the Republicans for Biden group that we had invented just yesterday, where we had Secretary William Cohen join that event. Or if it's Labor for Biden, we're on Labor Day weekend. On Labor Day itself, we had hundreds of union members join to kick off our Labor to Labor organizing. Absolutely right. It's all about making sure that we're building this broad coalition because at the end of the day, we build connections and we build trust with people who we know and that we connect with. And so that's why this coalition work is so, so important. So Tim, thank you for what you're doing for the campaign. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
And as Tim mentioned, we need to make sure we make a plan to vote. We also make sure that we talk to our friends and family about voting. So make sure you sign up for volunteership if you haven't done so already. And if you have, sign up for another one. Go to my.maindems.org to sign up for a volunteer shift. We need to put it all out on the field. We need everybody to do something. So right now you can do it in a quick, easy sign up, my.maindems.org to sign up to volunteer. Now, we know a lot's on the line this election, and we're going to hear from some more folks. But I don't think we can get into words the power of the vision of the future of America that the president has better than he can himself. So I'd like to play this video for you all to outline the future that we're building towards November.
There's a new world coming, and it's just around the bend.
It's time for America to get back up.
There's a brand new morning.
We can build a more perfect union
that belongs to you and me.
The days of divisiveness
Yes, a new world
will soon be over.
that belongs to you and me.
Let's get back up.
Yes, a new world.
We're decent, we're brave, we're resilient people.
Coming in peace.
We can't believe it yet.
Coming in love.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
That's right, we're decent people, and the way we pick ourselves back up is by making a plan to vote. So again, go to votemaine.com to set up your voting plan if you haven't voted already. And if you have voted, make sure you encourage your friends to vote by signing up for a volunteer shift at my.maindems.org. Next, I want to bring on Libby Schneider. Libby has over a decade of political experience on both the official office side and managing political campaigns for several members of Congress and the governor's race. She's got extensive policy experience in areas of small business, economic development, labor, and education, and she understands the uniqueness of rural America and electing red state Democrats. She's currently trying to win back the trust and votes of the rural America for Maine Democrats across the country. And as a Mainer from Oxford County, rural Maine, I'm really excited to welcome Libby to Maine. Libby, thank you.
Thanks, BJ. Hi, folks, and thanks to BJ and Paige and the entire Biden team in Maine and the coordinated team for working so hard and making your state and our country so proud. As BJ mentioned, my name is Libby Schneider, and I'm the Rural Political Director at the DNC, a native of North Dakotan, so rural is in my blood and feel a lot of kinship to rural Maine. I usually insist on going at the top of the program and not behind, famous and beloved actors, incredibly talented musicians, and eloquent organizers, just to try and save the crowd from the underwhelming whiplash you'll get from hearing from me. But here we go. I'm here to talk a little bit about what this election means to rural Maine. And as you guys might have heard, there's a debate tonight. So while I try not to make predictions, what I know for sure is what you won't hear from President Trump. You won't hear about what his plan is for rural Mainers, access to healthcare if he gets his way, dismantling the ACA. You won't hear about the gap in broadband access for rural Maine and how it hurts our students or our small business owners, or how our rural communities rely on infrastructure and can't afford to have another president who does nothing to make sure their roads, their bridges, their coastlines are safe and secure. You know why he won't talk about these things? Because he has no rural plan. He's had 4 years to show us his rural plan and has done nothing but put a knife into the back of rural Americans. And he doesn't know what it's like to live in rural communities. He doesn't understand what makes rural way of life so special. And so despite insisting that he's got the back of rural Americans, we know the truth. And the contrast between Donald Trump and Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris couldn't be more clear. Joe has a plan to bring rural broadband to every community, no matter how rural, something of which I know is so critical in Maine. He's got a plan to make our farmers and fishermen whole after being decimated by Trump's failed trade war. He's got a plan to ensure our rural hospitals, lifelines for both healthcare and also big source of jobs and employers in rural communities, stay open, which isn't guaranteed if the ACA is repealed. And we all know how high the stakes are, so I won't continue to pontificate on why I think Joe Biden is better for rural Maine. But I'm here mostly to say thank you. I know so many of the folks watching this have put countless hours of their lives, of their precious free time, to volunteer for this campaign. You're participating not only in a historic election, but as our main man, Joe Biden, always says, a battle for the soul of the nation. And I think we all know that's not hyperbole. I know this is a slog, and making phone calls and reaching out to voters to get out the vote can feel exhausting, but I want you to know that we see you, we are grateful for you, and we're only going to ask you to keep it up for a little over 11 more days. And then we're going to celebrate a new day in our country, and we'll owe that to you and your hard work. So please make a plan to vote. Sign up for another phone shift, sign up for 11 more phone shifts, get your friends and family out to vote, and thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thanks, Libby. And you actually touched on something I want to ask you about. In Maine, our rural communities struggle with broadband access. It's something we hear all the time. Democrats in the legislature have taken the lead on that with the support of Governor Janet Mills. We've seen Democrats lead on rural broadband, but as you mentioned, we haven't seen that from President Trump. How will that change if Vice President Biden is elected president on November 3rd?
Sure, BJ. I mean, I mentioned it too. The proof is in the pudding. He's had 4 years to deliver on a campaign promise to expand rural broadband, and he hasn't done it. And not only has he not done it, he hasn't even talked about it. And COVID has pointed out more clearly than ever the stark realities and the gaps between rural and urban internet access. So what we know is that Joe Biden, when he's elected, will invest $20 billion into rural broadband to make sure that every American, again, like I said, regardless of where they live, whether it's in the Sandhills in North Dakota or Western Maine, that they have access to high-speed broadband and wireless broadband through 5G. And to my fellow ruralers out there, we know what that means and how important it is, not just for so that I can go online shopping at the Gap when I'm at my parents' house in North Dakota, but also so that our students can do e-learning, our doctors and nurses can do telehealth in an efficient way. Our college professors can lead classes so kids can stay home and stay safe. And our small business owners rely on the internet, of course, and e-commerce now more than ever. So it's really, now's the time to make those investments. And the only person who's going to do it is Joe Biden.
You're absolutely right, Libby. I mean, we hear it all the time here in Maine, whether it is the blueberry farmers who can't get their blueberries to market because they don't have reliable broadband internet, or if it's the students in rural Maine that have to drive 30 minutes to the library just to do their homework, and they sit outside of a closed library in their parents' car doing their homework to get connected to that one internet access point. It's incredibly important. And it's one of many issues, right? Rural Mainers feel left behind, and for reasons like that, it's a good reason. We hear it all the time. So I heard part of your elevator pitch. I think what has Donald Trump done for rural families in the last 4 years, and the answer is not much. But what's your elevator pitch to rural voters when they're considering who they should vote for on November 3rd?
Yeah, my elevator pitch, like I said, you got a lot of it. But what I'd say is that you have an alternative, and you have somebody, you gave Donald Trump a chance, and a lot of us understand why you did that. You thought he was going to be an outsider. You thought he was going to disrupt things, and it turns out he's the worst among them, and has had a knife in the back of rural Americans since the minute he stepped into the White House and appointed cabinet officials who don't value our way of life. And so you have an alternative. Joe Biden has a plan for rural schools, for rural hospitals, for rural broadband, for infrastructure. I mean, I'm sure so many of you drive to work on crumbling roads or when it's winter and unsafe conditions. You have an alternative, and you have somebody who cares about rural Americans and understands that you want to stay in your communities. You want your kids to stay in your communities, but you need the opportunities to be able to do that. And the only way we do that is with support and investment comments from our elected leaders. And I know I saw Governor Mills on here earlier, and that Governor Mills is working her tail off to do just that. But we need federal leadership, we need support, and Joe Biden's the guy.
Right. Thank you, Libby. We appreciate all you're doing for rural America, and can't wait to bring this home in the last 12 days.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Next, I want to bring on Jack Hurley. Jack is a field organizer working to make sure we have a successful get out the vote effort. Jack, how can folks get involved?
Hey, thanks, BJ. As you said, my name is Jack. I'm an organizer in Knox County. I want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. As you now know, we only have 12 days left until the election, and there are over 200,000 ballots already returned here in Maine. But we still have a ton of work to do to make sure that we get Joe Biden in the White House. After working on the Biden campaign for more than a year, I've seen just how much this election means to Americans all over the country. As an organizer, it's my job to talk to voters every day, and I know that Joe Biden isn't just any candidate. Before this pandemic, I'd probably be telling you in person all about Joe's experience as a senator, chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, and as vice president for 2 terms. These are all important things that make Joe so great and qualified, but what's so unique about this time is our country's need for someone who can put himself in others' shoes and truly listen to the grief in which this country is going through with an open heart. And that's who Joe Biden is at the core. Between the tragic car crash that resulted in the loss of his wife and daughter, to the passing of his son, Beau Biden, to brain cancer, Joe has gone through unimaginable grief, much like the anguish that many Americans are going through across this country right now. Joe has always been there to console us. After the school shooting in Parkland, Joe was there hugging and supporting survivors. When kids get bullied for their stutter in school, Joe calls them and reassures them of their strength. During an event I was at in Cedar Rapids, a woman came up to Joe after his pitch and walked up to him breaking down from her recent passing of her husband. Joe pushed away all the cameras. It was just he and her, pulled her in, gave her a big hug, and said, "There's no tragedy that you cannot overcome." And compassion and empathy are what drive Joe Biden every day. And that's so desperately needed in this country, that authentic decency in our next president. I want everyone to take a minute and think about someone that you're fighting for in this election. Maybe it's a victim of gun violence, or someone you know that can't leave their house because they're susceptible to COVID-19. For me, it's my grandpa, who passed away shortly before coming out to Maine. And the last time I saw him, I wasn't even able to give him a hug because of the social distancing protocols at his nursing home. Joe Biden will wake up every day for the next 4 years, ready to fight for us, making this country a better place, and ensure that we never have to go through the tragedies that this current leadership has put us through. Joe has spent his entire career fighting for us, and now we need to fight for him. As he always says, here's the deal. We need each one of you to sign up for 3, or as Libby said, 11 phone shifts for GOTV, Get Out the Vote. In these final days, we're talking to undecided voters who will determine this election and decide the fate of the next 4 years in this country. We need your help. So join us, whether it's knocking doors, making phone calls, talking to your neighbors. Give it everything you've got in these last 12 days to make sure that we make a Joe Biden presidency a reality and start to heal the soul of this nation. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you for sharing your personal story. You're right. We all have reasons we get involved. The way people get involved now is by signing up for 3 shifts or 11, and by going to my.mainedems.org. Jack, thanks for everything you're doing. Can't wait to bring this home with you. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with some new volunteers.
As Jack put it, we've got to leave it all out on the field. So let's make sure we sign up for as many shifts as possible. The debate is about to start at 9 o'clock. The candidates will take the stage. We've got 3 big asks for you today. The first is to make sure that you sign up to volunteer by going to my.mainedems.org. The second is making sure you make a plan to vote. You can make your plan to vote by going to votemaine.com. And the third is to text Maine to 30330 for campaign updates. Again, we need you to sign up to volunteer. We need you to make a plan to vote, and we want you to text Maine to 30330 for those up-to-the-minute campaign updates. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to thank all of our great guests. And I want to close with this video that will fuel us in these last last 12 days.
There is only one America. No Democratic rivers. No Republican mountains. Just this great land and all that's possible on it, with a fresh start. Cures we can find. Futures we can shape. Work to reward. Dignity to protect. There is so much we can do if we choose to take on problems and not each other, and choose a president who brings out our best. Joe Biden doesn't need everyone in this country to always agree. Just to agree we all love this country, and go from there.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.